Greetings, everyone. This is the Hipster Snek, and today I have my special guest, Dietaku, here with me.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about a very deeply shocking thing. And I want you all to sit down for this because this may come as a surprise and possibly even a blow to many of you. We, as it turns out, we are huge nerds, and we really like science fiction.
I know.
It is truly, truly shocking, and I know all of you at home are very surprised by this turn of events.
But we want you to know, even though of this, we still love you, even though you're adopted.
Whoa! This became a very different Snek talk. Well, no, moreover, I was talking with Dietaku, and I made the observation that if you looked at sci-fi from several decades hence, several decades prior, you would see a very optimistic scope and tone. Now, a lot of it was very, very fantasy sci-fi. Like, a lot of the ideas they had were so far out there that, we're not even close to replicating them. But the general thrust of it was, hey, even if we don't...
No, man. I'm just saying, I have a small computer right in front of me, the size of a graham cracker, that can reach out and call people from the other side of the planet and can summon the sum of all human knowledge.
That's true. That's very true.
We have replicators now that can build things. And now it's not as quick as a TNG replicator. But
Right.
I'm just saying, we are getting close to Star Trek.
And that's true. And that's true. In many ways, we are. Especially, like, if you see, like, post-World War II, sci-fi got really big. And, like, the 50s, 60s, and part of the 70s, you see that trend that, yeah, we're on an upward spiral, things are getting better, we're learning all this stuff we just had no concept of before, and we're able to apply it. And then the late 70s, early 80s happened. I don't know exactly what the catalyst for it was, but suddenly everything just wants to rip off Blade Runner.
Yeah, I don't honestly. I honestly don't know what it was, but I think yeah, that's really because like even if you look at like Alien or Star Wars, which
Yeah.
admittedly is grungy in and of itself, those are all very optimistic.
Yeah.
Even with Alien with the Nostromo, which is basically a space tugboat. The crew there is very professional. They're very no nonsense. Yeah, the ship itself is, not like gleaming like, the way that the Enterprise is in the original Star Trek.
Right.
But I mean that's because, as I say, it's a space tug. It's not gonna be, gleaming gunmetal and everything. It's a ship that does hard work. But yeah, even like in William Gibson's work, it's like it's cynical, but it's not like just nihilistic and just crushingly depressing. Whereas like yeah, Blade Runner, it's like it's just crushingly depressing and just like oh, these will be lost like tears in the rain. What you gonna do? Am I right?
Yeah, like that's how they treat
You
it.
can't see what I'm shrugging right now.
But it's like that's the trend of sci-fi as a genre right now. It's very bleak, very very nihilistic, and very oh, it doesn't matter because we're it's all the same in the end. But it's like, not too long ago, Dietaku and I sat down and we decided to watch the original 1966 Ultraman. Now, you want to talk about an interesting show? For context, in 1965, there was a Japanese TV show called Ultra Q. And Ultra Q was kind of like the Japanese Twilight Zone, I think is a fair comparison. And,
Yeah.
it would kind of pontificate about like, maybe there's aliens, maybe there's like weird monsters and stuff, and maybe humans and these monsters aren't all that different. Things like that. Ultraman became the sort of sequel to Ultra Q, though it became much more a straightforward superhero show. But throughout the series, you see this recurring trend of, okay, maybe we don't have the answer right now, but, someday scientists will. And someday they can put those things to the test, and they won't need to rely on Ultraman to solve their problems because they'll have progressed to the point where that isn't necessary, and they'll just have the answer for this problem that we don't today. And it was that's very recurringly optimistic.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the three-parter that caps off the series. That's what happens. The Zeton aliens, the Zeton race, show up. They destroy the Science Patrol's HQ. They summon Great Zeton.
Yep.
Great Zeton bodies the crap out of Ultraman, and he's about to die when the Science Patrol, pulls the clutch and kills Great Zeton, and Zaffi has to come down and save Ultraman.
Yep.
It's Science Patrol that ultimately wins, even though, Ultraman helped.
Oh, yeah. No, he definitely did.
So, yeah, no, I think that's kind of the thing, is that, like, the Science Patrol is Ultraman's there to help us, but, us Earthlings have to take care of ourselves, ultimately.
Yeah, we were going to figure it out. And there's another one, and I forget if this is Ultraman or Ultra 7. Maybe you can correct me if I'm misspeaking. There's an episode where it looks like it's a meteor heading towards Earth. But then they're like, oh, well, that's simple. We'll just, blow it to bits with all these bombs we have. And then it turns out, at the last second, no, that's not a meteor. That's a planet that somehow got dislodged from its orbit. And now we have another planet full of innocent lives hurtling towards Earth. And they're like, well, now what do we do? This whole situation has completely changed. And at the last second, it's Ultraman who is able to redirect it and gently move that planet out of the way. And at the end, the captain, Captain Mura, takes them aside and it's like, we were overwhelmed this time. But eventually that's going to happen again, and it's going to end up back in the Milky Way galaxy again, because space travel being what it is. But it's like, but that's not for another 100 years. And in 100 years, science will have progressed so far, we won't need to ask for outside help. We'll already have an answer, and we'll be able to save those people again when that time comes.
I want to say that's the original, because as I recall from the Ultra Guard and Ultra 7, they would have just blown
it up, right?
They were a lot more trigger happy than the Science Patrol.
Yes, that is true. And there's this undying optimism, and thankfully, even though Ultraman is a legacy hero, that same kind of optimism is still around today. For those who are curious, several of the new series are being posted on the official Subaraya YouTube channel legitimately, and you can watch the entire thing with English subtitles.
I was going to say, even when Ultraman gets really dark, it's still optimistic with Ultraman Nexus.
Yeah,
and you're gonna just shake your head because I love me Ultraman Noah. He's such a good character, and it's because of the fact that even though he keeps getting the crap kicked out of him, but he does it because it's like he can take the lumps, but the little humans that he's protecting, millions of them will die if he doesn't do something.
Yep.
So he keeps getting back up, he keeps getting knocked down, and that perseverance pays off in the end when he basically just casually gets up and just backhands the bad guy at the end when he's fully revitalized as Ultraman Noah, and he just shoots him into space and blows him up. And it's like, that's because for every other fight in the series, he is the underdog. Um, and so it's kind of the catharsis at the end that you need, to actually see Ultraman, able to like just really lay into the I forget his name. I want to say Joshin. No, that doesn't sound right.
Oh,
It's like dark.
Dark Zagi.
Yeah, Zagi. I knew
Yep.
it was something short like that. Um, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
you see that constant optimistic attitude of the Ultras. I think another really good example of this is UltraMan Geed, whose Geed's entire like mantra is standing around doing nothing won't get me anywhere. So it's always I have to do something, and even if I can only do this one thing, I can still do that one thing, and the world is better for it.
And it's even cooler, I think, even more so with Gede, because as the series progresses and he learns more about like his origins, where he came from, and everything, because he basically just shows up and doesn't
Yeah.
have any knowledge of where he came from or anything.
Yep.
And he kind of learns that he's the spoilers to a 6-year-old, 7-year-old series now. He's the clone of a serious bad guy across multiple series.
Yep.
But that doesn't like, oh no, I've got to be sad now, which is like a thing that if Gede was in modern Western, like a modern Western cartoon, I would guarantee you he would spend at least 3 episodes of, oh, I'm a bad guy. There are bad guy blood running through my veins. Oh no, what will I ever do? When he's like, so my dad's evil. My clone dad is evil. I'm not.
Yeah, and then again, he always goes back. Think Gede. Standing around doing nothing won't get you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is a great kind of lesson to take to heart. This
Also,
is
I was going to say also his banter with Pegas is just absolutely adorable.
yes,
It
really
really,
is.
it really is just bros being bros, and
And
I think that's really cool.
it is. And I think that's what kind of makes the Ultras so valuable. So I mentioned this over on the Tomodachi Bros podcast, season 2 coming soon, trademark. I mentioned where it's like, I think people need Ultraman more today than in 1966 because there is so much information going around that it's easy to get the impression that everything is already hopeless and that everything is bad and that even like especially with the love of cyberpunk as a genre, like I love Shadowrun, but it paints a very bleak portrait of what the world would look like in a very short span of time, whereas the Ultras cling to this notion where it's like it's not naivete because it's more a things are going to be okay because I'm going to make them okay. And I think that's what sets an Ultra apart from a lot of modern quote unquote heroes found here in Western media, where they're very passive and they're very emotionally exploitative, might be a good word for it. Because they're not just making things okay, they're either bumbling into the solution and being incompetent and getting lucky, or a lot of the time the characters are just written as naive children and thus are just very easily swayed to see things the hero's way. But that's
think a
not.
lot of I think a lot of it is just the emotional immaturity of a lot of people nowadays,
Yeah.
dude. We have seen a lot of when I was okay. This is gonna be me, just kind of just anecdotal Dietaku time. When I was younger, my I have a lot of little brothers and sisters, and they all learned that, it was really easy to get a rise out of little Dietaku by just doing certain things. And, that's just the nature of siblings. But, you have to learn in that regard to just not let things bother you, to not take things personally. But the problem is like, so many people nowadays, and I see this, like, and it is just kind of a thing across, like, generations. I see it, like, with people that are as old as my grandparents. They take so many things personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just is ridiculous. We are so thin-skinned now. And, I think that's a major part of it. And so, people write what they know. And I think that's part of the problem too, is that, like, we're so thin-skinned, and people are so ready to, write things now, when it's like, look, you haven't really lived yet. You don't know. Go out and live. Go out and experience things. And then you can actually sit down and write. Honestly, I, have had a huge set of events over the past year that, like, just, completely altered the trajectory of my life. But it is, I think, given me a lot of perspective. It's given me a lot, to realize what I should be thankful for. And, I've lost a lot, but I've also gained a lot. And I'm not, fishing for sympathy. I'm just saying that, having experienced that now, I feel richer for it.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the problem, is that people are trying to, like, proselytize, trying to put forward, these narratives in fiction, when they themselves are like, well, I'm, 20 years old, and I've literally never left my, hometown, and, I never had any serious, problems in my life. I know what there is to know. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Like, that's where the arena of sci-fi, I think, really gets to shine, because it goes, well, what if? And then it runs with this, like, this notion, high technology, flying cars.
That's another thing. That's another thing, actually. Another thing that I have noticed a lot, because I have started reading Wicked, because basically there's this guy I know. You might have heard of him. He's called Hipster Snek. He, I was asking him about a book review, and he's like, well, why don't you do something about it? Put your money where your mouth is. I'm like, well, gosh darn it, maybe I will. So
how the tables have turned.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking. Good thing I'm sitting down. But I'm reading this book, Wicked, right? Now, I once upon a time actually read the original Wizard of Oz. I quite liked it. Here's the thing. The original Wizard of Oz, and I think you read it actually too, didn't you?
That I have.
It's a darksome fairy tale. It basically is a modern fairy tale. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Because it's like pretty much exactly in the same vein as, like, a lot of the Grimm's Brothers stuff and Hans Christian Andersen. It's just like, it's very grim, but not like pessimistic. It's just very, very, very dark.
Yeah. Like the Land of Oz is one covered in a lot of drama and subterfuge, and a lot of people who want power for themselves and will do anything to get it.
Yeah, but it's also very magical, very fantastical, very in the realm of, like, not of this earth.
Yeah, definitely.
Wicked is basically modern modern politics using the imagery of Oz. It's not fantastical. Like, they try to make, like, for instance, Princess Ozma, who is this immortal, basically fairy princess. No, no, it's a lineage. It's a family of tyrants. The Yellow Brick Road, it's solid gold. It's not just this fantastic road. No, it's solid gold road that they're using to burden the other people with their taxes. The various strange races that live. Oh, they hate each other. They all hate each other and are incredibly xenophobic. It's not. There's no sense of wonder in it, which is my problem with a lot of with modern third edition Exalted, because even though they constantly talk about, like, oh, there's no wonder, you guys are so need everything to be explained for you, but don't you have wonder? But then they will couch everything in the physics, in the mathematics, in the understanding of the world that's very granular, very scientific, very grounded in the modern scientific reality that we understand nowadays. Like, and it just takes me out of the world now, which is sad because, like, creation in second edition, the world of Exalted, is a weird place full of magitech, full of demons. Well, but it's also has its own internal logic and is very alien to reality.
Yeah.
Like, you basically have for instance, okay, let's put it this way. The explanation for the reason, because the explanation for the reason why there are male and female humans, for instance, is because the Titans themselves don't have sex, at least not in the way that we do. They have sexes. Yeah, they're male and female, but it's more of a mindset.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They did it in order to ensure that they didn't physically have to go, okay, boom, all right, here's a new little human, boom, here's a new little human. Now, like, they get bored really easily. So they're like, what if we created a system whereupon they would make new little humans and then we wouldn't have to worry about that? That's entirely the reason why that exists. It is so weird. And
that's called delegation.
Yeah, that's not only does that make sense for the world, but it is so weird and outside the realm of what, there's no idea of biology really involved with it. It is so weird. And yet, in third edition, they wouldn't do that. It would be all about, like, well, you see, biology, and it's like, no, I'm a kung fu super wizard empowered by the sun. I don't want to know about, well, you see, Ganymedes. I'm like, no.
Because I don't want boring everyday life to come in while I'm playing with my Legos, kick my Legos over, and then, point directly at me and be like, no, you have to stay grounded. And now I'm going to read the news headlines to you. And I'm like, no, this is like literally the opposite of fun.
13 dead in Zimbabwe. You don't know where Zimbabwe is either, do you? No. But do you? No. Hold on, let me Google this.
But yeah, like that's the thing that kills me is, like, you have this fantastic world, the sci-fi fantasy setting, and you pass up on the sci-fi and fantasy to inject more of this perpetual, this Ouroboros of negativity, where one end consumes the other, but at the same time begets it at the other side. It's just this never-ending cycle of misery and pain and politics. I don't want that in my escapism. And
Nope.
anyone who says that everything is political is doing you a disservice by just telling you, no, you can't get away from the things that I want to gripe about.
And
That's what
see,
it boils down
honestly,
to.
honestly, I think it's kind of goes to another point that I've kind of thought about myself. First off, it's this entire thing of, things are never, ever going to get better. They're only going to get worse. And it's kind of a message that you see just endlessly harped on
Yeah.
just through, like, the news, through television, just, it's just constant negativity. And as I said, the past year has been kind of a trying time. I've had a lot of things happen to me that I wish hadn't, but they've happened. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I've learned one of the things that helped me is to realize if there is something that needs to be done, the beautiful thing is you have two hands, have 2 feet. Even if you don't have those things, you yourself can make a difference, even if it's a little difference. And so, we just, and that's something I've been trying to do is to make a difference, in at least in the people's lives around me. And even if it's just a little thing, and to yes, things may suck now, but it's, if you don't have hope, there is no, there will never be any hope. There will never be optimism. Things will never get better. You need to think positively. And I know it's hard. I have a hard time with it myself, but you have to.
Yep. A really good example, let me cycle back to something we mentioned earlier, was actually an Ultraman Gene. There's a moment where the two human hosts of the Ultras, Jeed and Zero, are talking in this park. And Zero goes, Zero's host, his name's escaping me at the moment, Lito. Lito says, I may just be a salaryman and the power of an Ultra may be borrowed, but at the same time, if I find just like trash on the ground, I can literally just pick it up and throw it away. And in this one small action, I've already improved the world that much more. I think there's something really powerful and profound in that, because you don't have to fix everything to fix the one thing. And by fixing that one thing, you've moved the whole that much closer.
Yeah.
And there's something beautiful in that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, here's the beautiful thing about it. If you try to make things better for the people around you, and they try to make things better for the people around them, and it kind of blossoms out from there.
Mm-hmm.
Why, there's not so much bad things in the world. Now, am I saying, and then we'll all get together and have gumdrops, and, then we'll all sing Kumbaya, and John Lennon will come back from the dead and he'll be like, you saved Christmas! No, there's always going to be bad things, but you know what? There will be less bad things than if we all just kind of went, oh man, it sucks, and then just kind of sat around and were sad.
Right. And
Then, I mean, we're still sad, but,
bad
we,
things are just a part of life, and it's the metric by which we measure good things, funny enough. But it's like, if we're already making that effort, we'll be better prepared for when those bad things happen. And I'm not going to say it's always going to be, unicorns and gumdrops and what have you, but at the same time, like, that one small motion towards something better can cause a big change in the long run.
Snek, it's me, John Lennon. You saved Christmas.
No. We do not delve in necromancy around here.
Oh, darn.
Back to your cold dark tomb.
Oh.
But yeah, that optimism inherent to things like Ultraman, I think are vital, and I think keeping some, not even some, like a lot more optimism in our media can only go a long ways in making us more optimistic too. There's a lot of negativity to get consumed in, whether you're looking at news headlines or just watching a show that happens to be on the dark side. And I'm not saying that media can't be dark. It certainly can. It has its place. But I don't think it's good to wallow in that either.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you like to rag on it, it's like my personal works, I admit are on the grim side somewhat, but I try and I have firmly and vehemently said from now, and you can quote me on this, I am not going to do the entire, oh, everything is ruined, technology is going backwards, oh, humanity is doomed.
Or like,
Yes.
if at least if you set that up as a backdrop, you can still have an optimistic hero or an optimistic theme in your storytelling.
Exactly. The world, if the world is already sunshine and roses and kumbaya,
You have
there's
nothing
no
to learn
reason.
from it.
Exactly. If the world is dangerous and dark and people, have to be worried for their safety, then a hero is necessary. There's a story to be said there.
Yep.
So and that's kind of the way I try to be with the world tree. It's dark, it's scary, but that's all the more reason for heroes to be there. And honestly, also, I mean, I don't take my stories entirely seriously, too, which I think also is a lot of things now are just like, ugh, so serious.
Yeah, a lot of pretension comes with not being able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing. Once again, going back to what I was saying before, we are so thin-skinned now, just like people in general. And I'm not saying you specifically, dear listener, unless you are thin-skinned, at which point, shame on you! Nah, just kidding. I love you, even though you are adopted.
Well, I think that brings
Snek
us...
was never going to tell you, but I'm going to have to.
Your Uncle Dietaku, has to break the bad news to you. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point we're trying to drive home at. Is like, there's a place for every kind of story to be told. But at the same time, you should also consider what the themes of those stories are. And if those themes are about, hey, it'll get better, we'll figure out better solutions, we'll find better ways of doing things, I think that's something that should be embraced. And especially given that sci-fi and speculative fiction, taken as a whole, was built around those concepts to begin with.
Exactly. I mean, even, like, you look at H.G. Wells, and you look at, like, the time machine and everything, and he's like, wow, look at all, he at least is like, wow, look at, all the progress that humankind will make before he gets to the, Morlocks and the Eloi, or, the bit where he sees the last living thing on Earth, trundling in the snow.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, that sucks.
It's a good thing.
He has a lot of wonder and, like, wow, look at how far we've gone.
Yep. And in itself, like, that's the point. It's all building upon itself. There have been more scientific discoveries in the past 100 years than there have been in the sum collective of the 10, 12,000 odd years that humans have existed on this rock. And there's something wonderful about that, because we live at a time of unprecedented advancement. We have discovered things today that make it so just being alive in this time frame today is better than being a millionaire 100 years ago. So that's really, like, even when you're upset, even when the news headlines are terrible, because they always are, just, like, remember, you live in an unprecedented era, and a wonderful one at that. And you really shouldn't take that for granted, because when you do, you'll lose sight of the big picture. And the big picture is ultimately, UltraMan was right. And eventually, even if we get it wrong the first time, we as humans will eventually get things right.
Yeah, something that helps me sleep at night is the fact that like when I see the news and it's like, "Oh my God, everything sucks now." And then you look at I want to say Solon, a Greek statesman from the 5th century, when he's like, "The youth don't respect their elders. They don't worship the gods as they need to. They fritter away their time. The populace prefers to gamble and drink rather than do their civic duty. Athens is doomed." And I'm like, glad to know that we haven't changed.
Now that's a darkly amusing and poignant note. And
Yeah.
on that note, we're going to sign off for now, but leave a comment down below telling us kind of your thoughts on the subject matter. We'd be really curious to see if we hit upon something profound here, or if you guys agree or disagree, or maybe never thought of things that way before.
Or maybe we're both wrong, and you have the right answer.
And,
At which point, tell us. Tell us how wrong we are.
yeah, please, we'd be very curious to know. Anyway, this has been the hipster Snek and his good buddy Dietaku,
I will see you later.
and I'll catch you guys next time.